Hi, I'm Jim Julia, and I'd like to spend a couple minutes telling you about another of the historic collections that we have in our March sale. We've told you about the Wes Adams collection. Now I'd like to tell you about Dr. Lucie's collection. We are extremely pleased to have the opportunity in our next sale to handle 3 historic collections. And Dr. Lucie's is most certainly a very historic collection. Dr. Lucie was a friend. He was the physician of, he's a scholar, an author, and a collector of Bill Scagel things. Dr. Lucie moved to Fruitport with his family as a young doctor, and while there became acquainted with Bill Scagel and doctored him, and developed a very good friendship with this very eccentric, very interesting character. Dr. Lucie, for the rest of his life, has collected things that Bill Scagel produced. He's put together one of the most definitive books on Bill Scagel that exists, and on Bill Scagel's works, and his collection is unquestionably one of the finest in the world today. So, this is Dr. Lucie, and we'll be offering his collection of Bill Scagel things. I hope you enjoy. Okay, I'd like to show you just a couple of things from Dr. Lucie's fabulous collection. These things not only portray and well illustrate the incredible artistry of this master bladesmith, Bill Scagel, but some of these things have some really interesting stories. The man was as interesting as the product that he produced. The first thing I'd like to tell you about is the damn Democrat knife. This little miniature string cutter here that I have here was made by Bill Scagel and given to the ward chairman of the Democratic campaign committee in his area. It seems, there's an interesting story behind this. It seems that Bill was walking, later in life, he was walking home from the local tavern on a Friday night. He'd had a few drinks, as he usually did on Friday nights. Very, very bitter cold. And the Democratic ward chairman saw him walking as an old man along the side of the road and stopped and said, "Bill, hop in, let me give you a ride." Bill didn't like to be beholden to any man. And he said, "No, thanks," and he kept on shuffling down the road. The ward chairman drove up a little bit more and said, "Bill, for gosh sakes, it's really cold, hop in." Bill said, "No, thank you." He persisted, and finally Bill jumped in the car and he took him home. The next day, as I said, Bill Scagel was never beholden to any man. During the day, he produced this beautiful little knife. And he walked over to the Democratic chairman's house, knocked on the door, and presented him with this particular knife. Beautiful knife. A couple of days later, a friend was talking to Bill Scagel, and Bill, he said, that knife you made for the Democratic chairman. He said, "Yeah." He said, "What's the story?" "Oh," he says, "you're talking about that damn Democrat knife." And he said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Well, them Democrats are two-faced." And he said, "So when I made his knife, I made sure that I put ivory on one side and striated mother of pearl on the other side so he'd have a two-faced knife also." So, as I said, he was a very crusty man. The next knife I'd like to tell you about is the rare and desirable Scagel-made fixed blade hunter with folder blade in the handle. It's also VLNA marked. As you notice, there is a blade here that comes out of the handle, and the handle can be, and the blade can be brought back into the handle. Scagel made only 12 of these, and there's a good reason for that. Once he completed making the 12, he took a picture of all 12 with his Kodak camera, and we have a copy of those knives, including this one, in the catalog. They were very difficult to make, and this is documented in a letter to his friend later in life, to his friend Bo Randall, who observed Scagel's magnificent works and decided to also produce high-end knives. This knife here, we anticipate will bring somewhere in the range of $20,000 to $30,000. The next knife I'd like to talk to you about is indeed a very rare knife. In fact, people have asked me, how did you establish values on these? Well, in part, we established the values based on Dr. Lucie's knowledge of those that have sold, and indeed there are very few Scagel knives that come on the market. This is, as I've said in the beginning, one of the most extraordinary offerings to ever come at auction, and some of these are incredibly rare. Our estimates are only a guesstimate. They could bring a fraction of our estimate, and they could bring multiples of the high estimate. And this knife here personifies that whole idea of how difficult it is to estimate. This is Scagel's personal knife, an extremely rare and important knife. It would rank as one of the most rare of all of Scagel's knives, as it was his personal knife and was always had his sheathed at his side later in life. This is what he used from day to day. One of the very proud pieces of Dr. Lucie's collection. It carries an estimate of $20,000 to $28,000. The next knife, knife number 4, is this rare Scagel-made D-guard fighter. It's one of only 6 ever made. According to the records, Bill Scagel made one of these for a Marine in 1942 to take back to the Second World War. Scagel made 6 of these. This is the only one that we know of, and the condition is just phenomenal. Its estimate is $18,000 to $26,000. The next item, Scagel-made item, is item number 5. This is the best Scagel Axe Dr. Lucie claims to have ever seen. This was made for Armand Durham. And Scagel made a number of things for Mr. Durham, and Mr. Durham never used any of them. He took care of them, kept them in excellent care, and Dr. Lucie was fortunate to have purchased a number of things that had been in Durham's collection after his death. And everything was immaculate and like new. This particular axe that Dr. Lucie is so fond of was made for Arnold Durham about the same time his fighter knife was made, which is also included in this particular auction, and this was done in 1935. The axe is estimated at $20,000 to $28,000. The 6th item I'd like to tell you about is the finest known Scagel hunter with brass head pommel in the original VLNA box and also with its original Heiser sheath. This is extraordinary. And I have to divert here for just a second and tell you another Scagel story. Mr. Scagel was a very independent man, and he was a very proud man. VLNA handled his knives for many years. VLNA, of course, was one of the finest, one of the foremost sporting goods stores in the world at the time. They had a special page in the catalog that just illustrated some of Scagel's works and sold a number of his knives over the years. The knives were marked with the VLNA mark and identified with VLNA marks. And during the Depression, sales just dropped off considerably. And one day, VLNA made the mistake of writing Bill Scagel a letter, which basically said, Bill, this terrible economic disaster has really impeded sales, and to stimulate sales, we've found that we've had to lower the prices on the things in our inventory, and we'd like to respectfully ask you to lower the prices on your knives. Scagel replied, send back all my knives and don't expect to ever get another one as long as I live. And that was the end of his business with VLNA. This one is extraordinary. It has never been used. You can see the original polish marks on the blade. The Heiser holster sheath is outstanding and in wonderful condition. And the box is a true treasure itself, extraordinarily rare. This set we hope will bring in the $20,000 to $30,000 or more. I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you have an opportunity to attend the auction. Bill Scagel was indeed a most unique and individualistic person. He was a great artisan, and he was unquestionably the Moses and the Genesis of the modern high art knife. If you wish to participate, you can order our catalog or access our catalog online. If you cannot attend the auction, and we indeed hope that you can, but if you can't, you can order the catalog and leave absentee bids, or you may order the catalog and make arrangements to bid online for some of the items, or you may simply access our catalog online and bid on the computer via Artifact while the objects are being sold. But for gosh sakes, if you're interested in Bill Scagel, don't miss out. Thank you very much.